Guyana-born Brooklyn resident. Can you break that down? Because I think people hear that and they go, what does that mean?
Yeah, so Guyana is South America. It's above Brazil, under Venezuela. And like immigrants, my parents brought us to Brooklyn, to the United States, for a better life. And they brought us when we were four, when I was four and my brother was six. And then, I just took every single opportunity that I could and really ran with it. And I think that immigrant background, my family, my grandmother had a store in Guyana. So and I think we're living the American dream on top of that, right? And I think Guyanese immigrants, you either go to Queens or you go to Brooklyn. And so, and we actually
So it's
started in Queens and we ended up in Brooklyn. And so that's the connect.
so you actually come from a family of entrepreneurs in the sense that they own a store. Uh, so you got to see that. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I think our background, exactly right. So I didn't get to see that, but I think, in my, I always wondered why I always was thinking of things I could sell and starting a business. And I was just always built that way. And then in doing that investigation, asking my mom and my parents, she was like, "Oh yeah, you got that from your grandma. She had a store in Guyana." And so it's like really interesting, that sort of lineage. And that's where we think it comes from, because my brother and I run, Growth Skills, which is our company.
Yeah. Okay. So then let's dive into that. So you and your brother had always talked about making a company together, or you got this idea and you're like, you know what? I got to bring my bro in.
Yeah, so I think I have an interesting background, and I think I'm self-taught, and I think I was doing all of these things by myself, and things aligned where my brother went the finance route, and he came on to run the business, and I'm sort of the specialist expert in my craft of growth marketing, which is helping a business get a customer and then grow the value of that customer. But I think being self-taught is one of the things that really set us set me apart, and just the rocket ship that was my career, you know.
Got it. So, it's interesting. A lot of entrepreneurs tend to be like the opposite, where they're more focused on finance and don't want to be stuck in like, or not stuck, but necessarily diving into in the weeds and on the ground, the battleground. And, here it's the opposite, where you're truly a builder and a craftsman who's like, I want somebody else to run the finances while I focus on what I know I love doing and do best. Now, did I get that correct in understanding that?
Absolutely, and I'll explain it this way. So I'm a secondary black belt, right? I'm a bare knuckle karate champion, and I'll send you this video. And what you learn when you fight bare knuckle karate, there's like no real second place. It's either you're knocking that guy out or you're taking a beating, and that's it, right? And if you don't, my first bare knuckle karate fight really taught me a lesson, because I was not prepared. So I show up to fight this man, and he's huge, and bare knuckle means you have no shin guard, no pads. You have a cup and a mouthpiece. You can't punch in the face, because in Kyokushin you could break someone's face easily because you break bricks and boards, but you can knee and kick to the face. So I square off against this man and I hit him, boom, and I thought I broke my hand. And then I realized how unprepared I was for this situation, right? And I equate that with running startups and building businesses, because after that, I realized that I had to build a plan, right? So I had to actually train and gain the skills to not be put in that situation where I could really get hurt, right? And it's the same thing with business. So for me, and I actually learned how people don't learn how to, they don't know how to learn, right? They want to get a skill like speaking Spanish or whatever it is, but they've never been taught how to actually acquire and retain a skill. So they'll start and stop, and then they'll forget about it, and they'll never actually retain the skill. So for me, I went to school for creative writing. So I learned how to learn in the karate school. If you want to learn how to kick, you actually have to kick. You pick the kick, you kick endless times, and then you go fight, and then you realize if your kick worked or not, you adjust, and then eventually over years, you get a mastery, and then you learn how to kick, then you learn how to punch, and you learn the combinations. And that's what I did with my career. I started in school for creative writing, and I was like, oh, I could write now. What about learning how to edit videos? So I taught myself how to learn to edit videos. Then I was like, oh, Coca-Cola would like let me do videos for them. So that was great. Then I was like, you know what? All of these videos are going online. So I need to learn how to build a website. So I taught myself how to build a website. And then I was like, no one's coming to my website. So I learned how to do search engine optimization to get people to my website for free out of my mom's house because I was still in college and doing this. And I was like, whoa, this works. And then I was like, wait, people will pay me to do this. And that level, and my goal at the time was to be a chief marketing officer. And every year I basically realized that if I learned a new skill and you pair them, right? It's like if I learn how to kick and punch, and then now I know how to kick and punch. If I pair those skills together, they compound in value over time. So then when I got to the advertising agency industry, I was running circles around everyone because they knew the theory of a thing, but they didn't know how to actually do it. And the level of skill that I had because I was developing my craft was light years ahead of everyone, basically, right? And so, I was able to then take this group within the agency that I was working for from 500K to 2 million in less than a year, and then to 5 million, and that's what put me on Ad Age's 40 under 40 list. And everyone was like, what is happening? Because before me, they failed. That company had been around, and it's a big agent, Ad Age global agency, and they've been around for 14 years, and they couldn't figure this out. And it's only because I was self-taught. I was like, you guys are doing this wrong. Like, what, are you crazy? This is wrong. You need to. And the simple thing that I changed was when you look at Google and you type in a keyword, there's a whole practice of doing paid, and there's a whole practice of doing organic. And I was like, you need to do both, and you have to be good at both, but then you have to integrate the two. And everyone's like, oh my God, this is wow. And it just worked, and the clients bought it. And then I was running Western Union and Apple, and we were just killing with Western Union for like how to send money online. PayPal was outspending Western Union like 10-1, but because we were doing integrated search, like we'd push them all the way under the fold and no one could find them, right? But we were there. And that's it. And it's because I'm self-taught, because I actually have the skill. I don't really talk. I could do, right? And it's the same thing in karate, bro. You enter into that ring and you talk about fighting and you can't fight, game over, bro. You'll learn real quick. And that's it. And from there, I grew and grew and grew, and we've built something fantastic now.
So then once you established a certain level, you decided yourself to start growth skills, and that's when you reached out to your bro, or how did that happen?
So I was, at the agency. I was like, wow, we keep doing learning as part of the performance marketing that we're doing. So if we're doing search engine optimization for a client, Western Union would fly me to San Francisco. I'd go to their office and I'd train all of their engineers on search engine optimization. But like I realized they weren't retaining the information because we'd show up and we'd have a presentation and it was like speaking in a different language. So then I realized I should build a video-based learning platform where the client would watch the course beforehand so that when and then take a quiz so that when we show up, then we have a meaningful conversation. You've seen the material. I'm gonna walk it through you again, but you would say, okay, a canonical tag. I have some questions on that versus like hearing about a canonical tag in the first meeting, right? And so I started building it then, and it evolved over time. And I think out of necessity, my brother, he moved to Nashville. He moved to Austin with my mom, and he was like, look, I want to learn what you're doing. And I was like, this is perfect timing because I need help with running the learning platform and the consultancy, and he jumped right in, and the rest is history.
No doubt. Okay. So yeah, very entrepreneur-like, where you're the leader and you've got this vision for where the company needs to go, and you found someone that you can trust, who's going to deliver. And there's nothing like having good people in a company, right?
Absolutely. I also know my skill, right? I'm awful at finance, and that's he worked at Bank of America. Like that's what he does, So you have to understand that, and I learned that hard early on, where I just didn't have the right partners, and it was rough.
And so did you see the immediate impact the minute you brought someone on who understood finance and that you could trust?
Absolutely, because like there's a level of anxiety that goes away because I'm good at my craft. So it's like swimming in an ocean, and I'm a fish, right? But like when you're trying to do things that you're not good at, then it just dilutes everything, and you can't even focus on what your craft, building the courses, running the platform. Basically, I have all this anxiety because I have to focus on the finance stuff, right?
This other
And so
stuff.
yeah, it really allowed me to focus and just be able to operate, do what I do. He does what he does, and then we have a fantastic team that operates really well.
That was going to be my next question. So you brought on more people on your team, and so it's a learning platform, and you've taught your team how it is that you view and do things.
So yeah, it's part of it is a learning platform. The other part is a consultancy. So a client wants to grow. We have a very specific way we help you grow using SEO and content marketing and all of those things, right? So, and we use the consulting part of the business to fund the actual learning platform and the technology, because we're not trying to raise money and then go down that route where once you raise money, then you have a boss, and the point of being an entrepreneur is not having a boss, and like that freedom. And that's what we're doing. We realize that, and that's my brother helps run all of that, so I could focus on like the technology and all of that on the learning side. And yeah, without him helping to run the business and running the team that does the client work, it'll be impossible to do this.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's really cool that you brought someone on you could trust with finance, because you're right. The alternative to that would be to have to find investors who essentially are running the financial aspect and ensuring that you're having that conversation. But if you don't have
Yeah.
to do that, and you have a partner instead that you can speak to on the same level, you can keep that control that you're looking for, so you can focus on the vision at hand of where you think the company should be going next. And I like how you diversified it between the actual practice itself as an agency consultancy, right? And then there's the growth learning platform, where that's almost like your passion. Like you want to teach people how to learn better. And so you've got this business that funds that other thing that you probably love doing a lot more, which is breaking things down and helping people understand it.
Absolutely. The one thing I learned too, like there'd be these kids coming out of college, and they went to school for digital marketing from wherever they went to, and when they come to us, it's like you didn't learn anything. Like you actually don't know, because they're teaching some theory from years ago that actually doesn't work because they're not in the trenches. So part of why we still have the consultancy, because we need to stay cutting edge. We can't old antiquated practices, right? And so I think also part of my giving back, right, is no one teaches you first. No one is teaching people how to learn, right? We have a whole course on that, learning how to learn. But the other thing is just like people like immigrants and people that look like me don't have this opportunity, right? Like I never knew advertising was a viable career for me, because I just didn't know anyone who was black in advertising. I just didn't. And when I was going through the advertising, the agencies, there's just very few people of color in there. And I think people, they come into the agency life and they're just left to flounder basically, right? There are very few very good training courses, and regardless of your color, like I think people need, especially when they're starting out in the career, they need real mentorship and real guidance and sort of understanding of what to be expected from their job, what to be especially in digital marketing, what to be expected from their boss, and all of those things. And that's what we teach. And the other thing is, we say we're powering the future of work is because eventually our goal is, yes, we have the consulting, but we're going to program, right, from a technology standpoint. But we have a program called Protege Plus, where we're training people and we want to place them at a job, and then they pay us back a portion of their income, right? And what it does is, when they come into that program, we're training them, then we're going to give them paid jobs, so they actually realize that this is a real thing, right? This SEO stuff that I read about, it's a real thing. People will pay me, and once they get their skill and they're employable, we help them find a job, and then they have to pay us back, right? That's a whole thing that we're working on, that it's live now, but it's not like our core focus. But that's one of the ways I see that I can make a meaningful impact. We can make a meaningful impact in changing someone's life, right? Especially like, look at COVID. COVID killed so many jobs, right? There's so many people who have to switch, and they're like, do I go to a big boot camp, pay $20,000 that I don't have, and maybe get a job? Or do you come to a program like ours where we're like, look, we'll train you. Don't worry about paying us. We'll actually give you paid projects. Then we'll place you later. And we think that's the future of how people will learn and how people will work, and how these big agencies will and brands will actually get talent. Because right now there's like, if you're reading, like there's a lot of people leaving jobs and the whole remote thing. These agencies and a lot of brands can't even find talent, especially talent that's well trained, right? So that's our, I would say that's our 5-year plan. In the next 2 years, we're focusing on the growth marketing to build that. So yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like you've brought back apprenticeships, which is something that really hasn't existed for a long time, which I think has hurt our society more than anything, right? College is supposed to fill that gap, but it doesn't. It creates more, it creates better test takers than it does actual doers in society, right? Because the incentives are skewed in college. And I mean, that's a whole other conversation,
Yeah.
but it's really cool to see what you've done. And I really hope that your program falls on more people's ears so they can know more about it with this podcast. And beyond that, I just want to see that spread, because it's true. Being able to learn on a job and getting paid or whatever, and so that you have some money coming in while you're trying to learn. So because most people have to make that choice between going to school or having money. That's the other thing, right?
Exactly. And apprenticeship is the exact word, right? We call it protege because it's the same thing. Like that's what a crafts person. So I consider what we do a craft. That's what it is. It's like the best shoemaker, the best blacksmith, the best.
Yes.
Those are crafts that, like, look at Italian shoes. Those houses hand that craft down, and that's all we're doing. And we're going to build world-class craftsmen within growth marketing.
Yeah,
and that's it. That's actually, you said it perfectly, right? That apprenticeship model is what we're.
And what I think is cool is that you can endlessly train so many, and then you get the pick of the litter. Like whenever you see someone who's really talented, you can say to yourself, you know what, I'm gonna stay with you because I like what you're doing. And then anybody else, they're pretty good at it, but you guys are welcome to go find other places to work. I hope you've enjoyed what you've learned, right? But then you still get that first choice because you're the one that trained them.
My man, you already know. You already know, bro. That's because we're gonna hit the same problem. So we're solving, like, some of these agencies are trying to solve this problem now because they hit it, but we know it, we see it, right? So it becomes growing your own talent, right? And helping the talent find new jobs, but it's all a talent game. That's all it is. And then on the branding side, I'll give you some like supervision. Once you place a protege at, let's say, Coca-Cola, as they come up the ranks, they're going to remember the crew that taught them, right? So then there's business opportunities that come from there. So like it's an interesting model that we've developed, and this is just years of like making other people and other agencies rich. Like what I did at that agency Profero, again, 14 years of having a performance group. They could, especially within SEO and paid search, they couldn't figure it out, and I figured it out because I'm self-taught, right? And so now fast forward for my family, the Chichesters and my brother, and our people who are very talented, who have worked with me from job after job after job. We're just the same crew. We're gonna get ourselves rich, and the people who come through us, like our proteges and all of that, right? And that's what it's about: wealth creation for everyone.
Yeah, and that's dope, especially because in a B2B world, sometimes some agencies can't seem to figure out what's going on, and they'll outsource to another agency that does it better because either way, everybody gets paid, so I'm sure that comes.
We grow a lot because of that. You've got these huge agencies, and they're gifted at what they do, but they need special forces to come in and really, really help. And that's when our team shows up, and it's been good.
So for me, I think there are some important things to ask here. Number one, for anybody who's excited and listening and wants to be a part of this apprenticeship, or for someone who wants to work with you and get your consulting, where's the best place they can connect with you? Is it a social channel or website? What's the word?
Yeah, growthskills.co. And it's .co because there's a man in India squatting on the .com trying to sell it to me for 25K.
Oh
And that's
man,
just part
that's
of the
right.
game.
That's part of the game. Somebody out there was like, you know what? I'm gonna buy this.
This is a
They
good
don't even have
domain. Some kid from Guyana is gonna want it one day.
they thought ahead like it's so there was somebody there just buying .coms, man.
Exactly, exactly.
When it used to be the game to do, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I can't hate on him, but so growthskills.co.
Yeah,
Hopefully that
man. What
story will make sure you remember it.
yeah, one day you're actually gonna be like, you know what, this is chump change now. Whatever.
Oh,
Here,
for
give me that.
sure. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Oh man. Okay, so growthskills.co.
Mhm.
And that's for anybody looking to either bring you on as a consultant or tap into that apprenticeship, the protege that you've just that
Yep.
you've designed. And then uh are you active on any social channels? Can anybody stay in touch with you?
Yeah, I'm mostly active on Twitter. You could find me on LinkedIn as well. But yeah, those are the ones.
Okay.
Just Laval
Okay.
Chichester.
Okay, Laval Chichester. And then I have a question I've asked everybody as I begin to like bring things over to a close. We started talking about those things, and I hope you indulge me, but you are welcome to pass. And
Mhm.
that is, if you could have invited anybody today to like join us, learn about, you come up, which we went through briefly, your values and your thoughts on family and bringing them onto a company and how that fits into the place. The way you've designed and structured your business. Uh, Having two divisions, but yet they support each other mutually. Uh, if you could have invited anybody to experience all of this and sort of chime in, dead or alive, who would it have been and why?
It'd be my dad, because him and my mom brought us to this country, and I'm a dad now. I have a newborn, and it's just like realizing like the importance of being a dad, and just it's life changing. But I think I was also like a bit of a knucklehead as a kid. I was a good kid. I was always in school, but like if you wanted to fight, I'd fight you. And I got stabbed a couple of times. So I gave him a little bit of heartburn, and he died 20 years ago. So I think him, and I just always, when he knew me, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I think I'm laser focused, and him seeing me and my brother working together, and like even Caesar, he knew Caesar, right? Like our friend, like we all, my dad, like coach Caesar in soccer. So like having him see us now, I think would just make him so proud. So like every day I think about that. And I think for anyone listening, like family really means, and a lot of people say don't work with family, but like that the respect and the need. So a lot of people don't know, like if you want to be an entrepreneur, you need family support, you need friends support, you need to have certain things in order to do that. And yeah, my dad would be the person I'd like to see this.
Absolutely, man. What's your dad's name?
Chico.
Chico. Shout out to Chico, man. Seriously. I think he would be proud too, man. I mean, just off the bat right away, I could tell you were different by the way you take metaphors from other parts of your life and bring that training and that discipline into what you do in business. I think some of the best entrepreneurs do that. You don't have to look too far. You can look at something like Apple and Steve Jobs and the way he did all these other things in his personal life, and it bled into his views on how he designed products and marketing messages. So
Absolutely.
I really respect your craft and how it is you approach things. If anything, this is a great reminder for an entrepreneur because the conversation at some point became, oh, you don't have to necessarily be the one that does it. You just have to have the vision and this and that.
Yeah,
But you're bringing it back and saying, well, you still got to be pretty good at what you do if
absolutely.
regardless of whether you're going to get somebody else to do it or not. Because at the end of the day, should things need the leader to step in, the leader is going to step in and show everybody how it's done. And
Absolutely.
I think that rings so true today. And someone like you, that's an example that other entrepreneurs who listen to this can be reminded of. Whatever it is, that's your focus, that's your specialty. Double down on it, get good at it, and make sure that no one is better than you at it. You're not second best. You're first class here when it comes to this. And that's why you're succeeding. And that's why you get the spot that you deserve. Everything else, of course, takes good people. And when you combine those things, that's the lesson I'm pulling away from this.
Absolutely.
So
And I appreciate the compliment. Like, yeah, I mean, I appreciate it. I love your podcast and like this is
man,
fantastic. I hope you have me on again. I think in like 6 months I'll have another wild story to tell you. So I got some
let's do
things.